Discover the universal truth shared by sages, saints, and philosophers across centuries, that peace begins when resistance ends. From Buddhism's serene acceptance to Stoicism's calm endurance, from the surrender of Islam to the detachment of Hinduism and the faith of Christianity, explore how the world's spiritual masters teach us to embrace life exactly as it unfolds. Learn how acceptance can free you from suffering, bring clarity to chaos, and reveal the quiet power of inner stillness in your everyday life. What if the secret to peace wasn't in changing your life, but in accepting it, fully, completely, as it is right now? The Buddha called it liberation from suffering. The Stoics called it living in harmony with nature. The Quran calls it surrender. The Bible calls it faith. Every path, every tradition, every great teacher has said the same thing in a different language. Stop fighting reality, and you will be free. This is not about giving up. It's about waking up. Welcome to accepting life as it is. Timeless wisdom from the world's greatest faiths and philosophies. Chapter 1. Stop resisting reality. What if I told you that most of your suffering has nothing to do with what's happening, and everything to do with how you're fighting it? Read that again. It's not the event. It's not the pain. It's your resistance to what is. You're exhausted not because life is hard, but because you keep arguing with reality. You want things to be different. You want people to act differently. You want time to move faster, or slower, or backwards. And every ounce of that wanting creates friction inside you. Buddha said it plainly. Attachment is the root of suffering. That's his second noble truth. He didn't say pain is the root. Pain is inevitable. He said attachment, clinging, resisting the flow of life is what multiplies pain into suffering. You see, life throws challenges at everyone. Death, loss, rejection, failure. But suffering comes when we refuse to accept that these things are part of life. Pain is the cut. Suffering is the hand that keeps picking at the wound. You can't stop the rain, but you can stop standing in it screaming for the sky to change. You can't control what someone else does, but you can stop feeding your mind with it shouldn't have happened. That's the fight that drains your soul, the constant battle against what already is. The Stoics said it another way. Epictetus, the slave-turned philosopher, taught, some things are in our control, and some are not. That's it. That's the entire map to peace. He said, we suffer not from the things themselves, but from the opinions we hold about them. It's not the traffic that ruins your morning. It's the story you tell yourself about it, that it shouldn't be there, that people are in your way, that you're losing time. Reality is neutral. It's your judgment that turns it into misery. The Stoics trained themselves to repeat one core reminder, amor fati. Love your fate. Not tolerate it. Not survive it. Love it. Why? Because everything that happens is raw material for your strength, your wisdom, your evolution. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor philosopher, wrote in Meditations, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That's not poetry. That's a battle plan for peace. When something blocks your path, stop cursing it. Stop saying, why me? Start saying, because me. What is, is. Say it again. What is, is. That's not surrender. That's power. You have been trained to believe that control equals strength. It doesn't. Control is illusion. Acceptance is power. Because when you stop wasting energy resisting, you have energy to respond. You become clear, calm, and effective. When the mind stops saying, this shouldn't be happening, the heart opens to, what can I do now? That shift, from resistance to response, changes everything. It's not about control. It's about clarity. It's not about denial. It's about direction. It's not about giving up. It's about showing up. Let's get real. Look at your life. Think of one thing you've been fighting. A breakup, a job you hate, a health issue, a betrayal, a delay. Now, hear this truth in your bones. It's already here. You don't have to like it. You don't have to approve of it. But you must acknowledge it. Because the moment you accept reality as it is, not as you wish it were, you regain power. You can't steer the river, but you can learn to row. And rowing only begins when you stop shouting at the current. The Buddhists call this radical acceptance. It's the practice of saying yes to life, even when it hurts. Tara Brach, a modern teacher of mindfulness, said, "Pain is inevitable, but suffering begins the moment we say, 'This shouldn't be happening.'" That's the turning point, when your inner dialogue shifts from why me to this is me, right now. Because peace isn't found in control. It's found in alignment. Let's break it down even further. When you resist reality, 3 things happen. You lose perspective. You start seeing the world through frustration and blame. You lose energy. Every thought of "it shouldn't be this way" drains emotional fuel. You lose growth. Because you're so focused on what went wrong, you can't see what's trying to emerge from it. Resistance freezes you. Acceptance frees you. So here's the practice. Simple, but not easy. Step 1. Notice when you're fighting reality. Catch yourself saying, "It shouldn't be like this." Pause. Breathe. Step 2. Say it. What is, is. That phrase isn't passive. It's active surrender. It grounds you in the present. Step 3. Ask, given that this is true, what now? Not why me. Not how could they. Just, what now? That's how strong people think. That's how leaders think. That's how inner peace begins, one conscious act of acceptance at a time. Now, I know what you're thinking. If I accept reality, won't I become passive? Won't I stop improving? No, that's a misunderstanding. Acceptance is not apathy. It's the foundation of all change. Because you can't change what you refuse to see. You can't fix what you keep pretending shouldn't exist. You can't lead if you're still fighting what's already true. Carl Jung said it best. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. Acceptance is not giving up the fight. It's choosing the right battlefield. It's saying, "This is where I am. Now, let's move." There's a story from Zen Buddhism. A man crossing a river is hit by an arrow. He screams and curses the sky, demanding to know, "Who shot me? Why me?" But while he's shouting, he's bleeding out. The master says, "You are dying from the arrow, not the shooter. Pull the arrow. Stop investigating who to blame. Start healing." That's the whole point of acceptance. You stop feeding the wound with stories. What is, is. Repeat it when you wake up. Repeat it when plans fall apart. Repeat it when life throws you a curveball. The more you repeat it, the faster your mind stops spinning in resistance and starts anchoring in awareness. Because here's the truth. You can't accept life halfway. You either accept it as it is, or you live trapped in endless arguments with what's already happened. This doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means you stop denying. It doesn't mean you stop improving. It means you stop resisting what is, so you can work from reality, not fantasy. When you stop resisting, you don't lose power, you gain precision. You stop reacting, and you start responding. And that's the foundation of mastery, of yourself, your emotions, and your destiny. So remember this mantra, because it's not just philosophy, it's survival. What is, is. The world won't bend to your will, but you can bend your mind to reality. And the moment you do, peace enters. You stop being the victim of life. You become the witness of life. And from that place of clarity, all wise action begins. Stop resisting reality. Start living it. Because every great teaching, from the Buddha to the Stoics to the sages, points to this single, powerful truth. Freedom begins where resistance ends. You mastered the first step, seeing reality as it is. Now, let's move deeper, into the hidden strength that comes when you stop fighting and start flowing. Chapter 2. Surrender is strength. You've been taught your whole life that power means control. That strength means pushing harder, forcing outcomes, bending reality until it obeys you. But the truth is, the more you try to control, the more you lose control. Real strength is not in domination. It's in alignment. It's not in resistance. It's in surrender. And that's the paradox of true power. You win the moment you stop fighting what you can't command. The very word Islam means submission. But not submission in the way the ego imagines. Not weakness. Not defeat. Not bowing to oppression. The Arabic root Islama means to surrender in peace to divine will. It's a surrender born out of trust, not fear. In the Quran, it says, "Indeed, my prayer, my sacrifice, my life, and my death are for Allah, the Lord of the worlds." 6:162. That's not resignation. That's alignment with ultimate reality. When you surrender, you're not giving up power, you're returning it to its rightful source. You're saying, I am not the center. I am part of something infinitely wiser than me. And that changes everything. Because the truth is, your personal will is limited. Your perception is flawed. Your control over life is microscopic. Yet the ego still whispers, if I just try harder, I can force things my way. But life doesn't bend to ego. It bends to truth. And truth always wins. That's why surrender isn't collapse. It's clarity. It's the moment your mind stops thrashing against reality and starts flowing with it. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, tie your camel and trust in God. That single sentence destroys centuries of misunderstanding. It means, act, but don't cling. Prepare, but don't panic. Work hard, but don't believe the outcome is entirely yours to command. This is the essence of strength. Do what you can, surrender the rest. It's not about laziness. It's about loyalty to truth, not illusion. The same message echoes in Christianity. In the Garden of Gethsemane, facing betrayal and death, Jesus prays, not my will, but thy will be done. Luke 22 verse 42. That is surrender at the highest level. He didn't quit. He didn't collapse. He accepted the reality of what was unfolding and trusted the wisdom behind it. That one line, thy will be done, is the most powerful act of strength in the entire New Testament. Because surrender in that moment wasn't passivity. It was participation in something larger than the self. It was alignment with divine order. When your will aligns with higher will, your strength multiplies. When your ego dissolves, your energy flows. When you stop fighting life, life starts working through you. You see, there's a massive difference between control and command. Control is ego, trying to manipulate every variable. Command is wisdom, doing your duty and letting go of the rest. You can command your effort. You can command your focus. You can command your faith. But you cannot command life. That's why surrender isn't weakness, it's awareness. It's the discipline of saying, I am responsible for the input, not the outcome. And that mindset changes how you live, how you work, how you love, and how you lead. Let's take it from theory to real life. Think of the leaders who remained unshakable through chaos. Nelson Mandela in his prison cell, Viktor Frankl in a concentration camp, or Mahatma Gandhi fasting for freedom. Each of them faced unbearable circumstances they couldn't control. But they stopped demanding control and started flowing with purpose. Frankl wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That's surrender in action. It's not about being passive. It's about being present. Mandela couldn't choose his freedom, but he could choose his dignity. Frankl couldn't change his prison, but he could change his perspective. Gandhi couldn't force empires to collapse overnight, but he could align himself with truth and nonviolence, and that truth became unstoppable. When you surrender your obsession with control, you gain access to something much greater, flow. In psychology, flow is the state where action and awareness merge. It's where your best work happens, not because you're forcing it, but because you're fully absorbed in the present. It's when you stop micromanaging every moment and start moving with it. The same principle lives in spirituality. You stop controlling, and you start co-creating. You move with the rhythm of the universe instead of clashing with it. And in that space, everything changes. You stop being rigid. You stop being reactive. You stop exhausting yourself with how it should be. You enter calm strength, the strength of surrender. Now, let's make this practical. How do you surrender without collapsing? How do you align without losing ambition? 3 steps. Step 1. Separate effort from outcome. Do everything in your power. Train, study, work, plan. But don't demand that life obey your schedule. Do your part, then release it. Step 2. When things go wrong, remind yourself, maybe this is happening for me, not to me. That small shift takes you from victim to student. You start seeing divine intelligence where you once saw chaos. Step 3. Practice daily trust. Before you sleep, repeat, I surrender what I can't control. This rewires your nervous system. It replaces anxiety with calm awareness. Surrender is not a one-time act. It's a lifestyle, a discipline, A daily decision to let go of your false control and lean into faith, whatever you call it, God, the Tao, the universe, or simply life itself. Here's the paradox again. It's not about control. It's about trust. It's not about domination. It's about direction. It's not about weakness. It's about wisdom. The strongest people are not those who never fall. They are those who, when life breaks them, stop asking why me and start saying, guide me. That's surrender, and it's unbreakable strength. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna, surrender all actions to me, with your mind focused on the self, free from longing and selfishness, and fight. Gita 3:30. It's the same message across every tradition. Act fully. Trust completely. Release totally. That's not religious talk. That's psychological mastery. When you trust that there's order beyond your control, you stop wasting energy on anxiety and start living with precision. Because here's the truth. Life is wiser than you. And the sooner you stop demanding it bend to your will, the sooner you'll see that it's been carrying you all along. So, when life corners you, remember this. You're not losing control. You're being invited to surrender. You're not being tested. You're being trained. Every moment you can't control is a classroom where faith is taught, not by force, but by flow. The ocean doesn't fight the wave. It is the wave. Be the ocean. Say it out loud. I surrender, and in that surrender, I am strong. Because real power doesn't come from holding on tighter. It comes from letting go wisely. You've learned now that surrender is not defeat. It's alignment with truth. And alignment brings peace. You've stepped into the strength that comes from trusting something greater than yourself. Now, let's go deeper. Because the next level of acceptance isn't just surrender, it's release. You've surrendered your control. Now, let's learn to release your grip. Chapter 3. Let go or be dragged. You have two choices in life. Let go or be dragged. Dragged by your past. Dragged by your ego. Dragged by expectations that were never yours to begin with. You either release or you resist, and resistance always costs more than you think. You've heard the phrase before, go with the flow. But what most people don't understand is that this isn't soft philosophy, it's ancient, hard-won wisdom. Because the truth is, the flow doesn't wait for you. It keeps moving. And the longer you hold on to what's already gone, the more it tears you apart. So let's break it down. Letting go is not weakness, it's intelligence. It's not about apathy, it's about alignment. It's not about quitting, it's about trusting. The Taoists understood this better than anyone. In Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu writes, the softest thing in the world overcomes the hardest thing in the world. Think about that. Water, soft, yielding, flexible, cuts through rock over time. Because softness isn't fragility. It's persistence without tension. Taoism teaches that when you resist the natural flow of life, you suffer. When you fight what is, you exhaust yourself. But when you relax into the flow, when you stop gripping and start allowing, life carries you where you need to go. You can fight the current, or you can float with it. That's not a metaphor. That's survival advice. The harder you fight the current, the faster you drown. But when you surrender and float, the same water that terrified you starts carrying you forward. That's how life works. When you resist change, you harden your heart. When you cling to the past, you rot in it. But when you release, you make space for what's next. Letting go isn't loss, it's transition. Here's the truth most people never learn. Letting go doesn't mean losing control. It means regaining peace. Because clinging is an illusion of control. You think you're protecting yourself by holding on, but in reality, you're trapping yourself. You can't move forward if both hands are gripping the past. In Taoism, the sage doesn't force life. He moves with it. He understands that harmony is not achieved by conquering the world, but by synchronizing with it. He acts, but never resists. He flows, but never flees. That's the paradox. The more you force, the less you flow. And the less you flow, the more you suffer. Now, let's look at another tradition that took this principle and turned it into a lifelong discipline. Hinduism, specifically the Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not just scripture. It's a manual for the battlefield of the mind. In it, Krishna tells the warrior Arjuna, you have the right to the work, but not to the fruits of your work. Bhagavad Gita 2:47. That line destroys the modern illusion that success equals control. Krishna is saying, do your duty. Give your best. But release your attachment to results. Because the moment you attach your peace to outcomes, you hand your power to chaos. That's karma yoga, the discipline of detached action. Work without anxiety. Serve without expectation. Love without possession. That's how warriors win without destroying themselves. Let's get brutally honest for a second. Most people are miserable not because life is cruel, but because they refuse to release what's already finished. They hold on to failed relationships, dead dreams, and outdated identities because the ego whispers, without this, who am I? But that's the lie. You are not what you hold. You are what you flow through. It's not about control. It's about faith. It's not about clinging. It's about clarity. You can fight the current, or you can float with it. Every great philosophy, every great faith, every great teacher, they all point to this one lesson. Buddhism says, attachment is suffering. The Stoics say, fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling. Seneca and the Taoists say, let it go or be dragged. Different languages. Same truth. The more you resist life, the more life resists you. And yet, the more you let go, the more life begins to move in your favor. Why? Because when you release control, you stop blocking the natural flow of things. You allow movement. You allow renewal. Think about trees in a storm. The rigid ones snap. The flexible ones bend and survive. You can be rigid or you can be resilient. But you can't be both. Let's talk about the psychology behind it. Your brain loves certainty. It craves control because it believes control equals safety. But real safety doesn't come from control. It comes from adaptability. When you hold on to fixed expectations, every unexpected event becomes a crisis. But when you let go, change becomes information. It becomes feedback, not failure. So letting go isn't spiritual fluff, it's neurological freedom. It rewires the brain from panic to presence, from resistance to resilience. Let me make it real for you. There was a time when a corporate executive I coached hit rock bottom after losing his position. He kept saying, this shouldn't have happened. I built everything. He was dragged by that thought for months, angry, bitter, lost. Then one day, he stopped and said, maybe this is what needed to happen. That single moment of release changed his life. Within a year, he built a business more aligned with who he really was, not who he thought he needed to be. Because that's the power of letting go. It doesn't destroy you, it redirects you. Now here's how to practice it. Step 1. Identify what's dragging you. What are you still replaying, still fighting, still gripping long after it's over? Say it out loud. Name it. Step 2. Ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped resisting this? You'll realize, peace is one decision away. Step 3. Use the mantra, you can fight the current, or you can float with it. Repeat it when your plans collapse. Repeat it when someone lets you down. Repeat it when life doesn't go your way. Because the current is wiser than your plan. And when you float with it, you begin to see, maybe life wasn't against you after all. Maybe it was carrying you towards something better all along. Here's the truth that sets you free. Letting go doesn't mean nothing matters. It means everything matters, but in its right time, in its right order, and under a wisdom greater than yours. You don't stop caring. You stop clutching. You don't stop acting. You stop overreacting. You don't stop trying. You stop tying your worth to the result. That's mastery. That's inner peace. That's freedom. So, the next time you're stuck in chaos, remember, you can't fight the river and win. You can't force stillness in a storm. You can't drag the past into the future and call it progress. Let go, and you'll realize, the current isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It's showing you how to flow, how to adapt, how to trust. You can fight the current, or you can float with it. One will break you. The other will build you. You've learned now that release is not defeat, it's alignment. You've understood that the flow of life is not your enemy, it's your guide. You're no longer the person who gets dragged by life. You're the one who moves with it. But to master acceptance fully, you need to know what's truly yours to control, and what isn't. Because peace isn't just about letting go. It's about focusing your power where it actually belongs. You've learned to let go. Now it's time to take command. Chapter 4. Control what you can. Release what you can't. You're burning energy every single day, not because life is hard, but because you're trying to control things that were never yours to control. That's the real reason for your stress, your anxiety, your exhaustion. You keep wrestling with ghosts. You keep trying to change what's already written. The truth is simple, but it's not easy. Control what you can. Release what you can't. That single sentence is the foundation of peace and power. It's not about giving up. It's about getting precise. It's not about apathy. It's about accuracy. It's not about indifference. It's about discipline. The Stoic dichotomy of control. More than 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wrote in the Enchiridion, "Some things are in our control, and others are not." That's the core of the Stoic dichotomy of control, a framework that has outlasted empires, religions, and ideologies. Epictetus was born a slave. He had every reason to feel powerless. But he discovered something extraordinary. Even if your body is chained, your mind is free, if you learn where control truly begins and ends. The Stoics drew two columns. One labeled mine. The other labeled not mine. That's it. Two boxes. And everything in your life fits into one of them. Your thoughts. Mine. Your effort. Mine. Your attitude. Mine. Other people's opinions. Not mine. The weather. Not mine. The past. Not mine. The outcome of your actions. Not mine. Simple. Brutal. Clear. But here's where most people fail. They spend their entire life standing in the not mine column, trying to control outcomes, people, and external circumstances. Then they wonder why they are miserable. You can't control the wind. You can only adjust your sails. You can't control the storm. You can only control your steering. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. The Stoics weren't passive. They were powerful. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Read that again. Power over your mind, not outside events. That's not philosophy. That's strategy. It's the difference between living intentionally and living reactively. Let's bring this home. When something goes wrong, when someone betrays you, when plans collapse, when the world doesn't meet your expectations, your first instinct is to grab tighter. You think control equals safety. But real control is not about gripping harder. It's about focusing smarter. You don't need to control everything. You only need to control the right things. That's the Stoic discipline. It's not about obsession. It's about ownership. It's not about domination. It's about direction. Control what's yours. Release what's not. The Christian parallel. Jesus on worry and focus. Even Jesus taught the same principle, not as abstract theology, but as a daily psychological tool. In Matthew 6 verse 34, he said, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." That's not just faith, that's focus. That's the art of living in your circle of control. When you worry about tomorrow, you're projecting into a zone that doesn't belong to you yet. You're trying to control time itself, and time doesn't negotiate. What Jesus was saying is this: stop scattering your energy across what's uncertain, and bring it back to what's in front of you, now. Worry is a misuse of imagination. It's energy spent rehearsing failure instead of building resilience. So when he says, "Do not worry about tomorrow," it's not a call to laziness, it's a command to focus, to live in today, to do your best in this moment, and to trust that what's beyond your control will unfold as it should. That's faith, yes, but it's also psychological mastery. Because when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable, you reclaim bandwidth. You free up attention. You become effective again. It's not about control. It's about clarity. It's not about domination. It's about direction. Modern psychology agrees. Even in modern behavioral science, this principle holds true. Cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most effective forms of modern psychology, teaches the same thing. Separate your thoughts, feelings, and actions from external events. You can't control what happens, but you can control what you tell yourself about what happens. That's the power move. That's the battlefield of control. A practical exercise, your two columns. Now, let's turn philosophy into practice. Take a sheet of paper. Draw a line down the middle. At the top of one column, write, control. At the top of the other, right, release. Now think of one problem that's been eating your energy, a situation you replay at night, a stress that won't let go. Maybe it's a person who won't change. Maybe it's an outcome that didn't go your way. Maybe it's something from your past that you keep reliving. Ask yourself, which parts of this are truly mine to control? Maybe it's your reaction. Maybe it's your preparation. Maybe it's the decision you make next. Everything else, the other person's behavior, the past, the outcome, goes in the release column. Then, here's the key step. Act only on the control column. Everything in the release column, you let it go. Completely. You'll feel resistance. That's your ego saying, if I let go, I'll lose. But that's the lie. Letting go isn't loss. It's liberation. Because when you release what's not yours, you multiply your energy for what is. You stop leaking power into the impossible, and you start focusing power on the actionable. That's how calm turns into confidence. Real-world application. Look at elite performers, athletes, soldiers, entrepreneurs, even spiritual leaders. They all operate by the same law. Control your controllables. In battle, a soldier can't control the weather, the terrain, or the enemy's next move. But he can control his weapon, his breathing, and his discipline. In business, a leader can't control markets or competitors. But they can control their decision-making, their effort, and their integrity. That's why Stoicism and strategy overlap, because both are built on the same foundation. Focus on what's within your reach, and release what isn't. It's not about control, it's about composure. It's not about perfection, it's about precision. The discipline of peace. Here's what most people don't realize. Peace isn't found in the absence of problems. It's found in the presence of perspective. You can't eliminate chaos, but you can decide where your mind lives inside it. When life throws you uncertainty, say it out loud. This is not mine to control. Then return your focus to what is. That's not denial. That's discipline. That's emotional maturity. That's strength disguised as surrender. You stop being the puppet of circumstance and start being the author of your response. That's mastery. The Stoics, Jesus, modern psychology, all point to the same truth. You can't control life, but you can control your participation in it. That's where peace lives. That's where strength begins. It's not about everything being perfect. It's about you being precise. So the next time you catch yourself overthinking, worrying, or trying to control the uncontrollable, remember your two columns. Write it. Sort it. Act on what's yours. Release what's not. Because the moment you learn to control what you can and release what you can't, you stop surviving, and you start leading. Chapter 5. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Pain will find you. No matter how much money you make, how fit you get, or how careful you are, pain will knock on your door. It's not a punishment. It's not a failure. It's the price of being alive. But here's the truth most people never learn. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. There's a difference. Pain is the raw event. Suffering is the story you tell about it. Pain is what happens. Suffering is what you add. You get betrayed. That's pain. You replay it 1,000 times, asking why me. That's suffering. You fail at something. That's pain. You call yourself a failure. That's suffering. It's not about avoiding pain. It's about mastering response. It's not about denial. It's about discipline. Because when you understand this difference, life stops being your enemy and becomes your teacher. The Buddhist wisdom, the second arrow. The Buddha explained this over 2,500 years ago with what's known as the parable of the two arrows. He said, when touched with a feeling of pain, the ordinary person sorrows, grieves, and laments. They weep, beating their breast, becoming distraught. They feel two pains, physical and mental. A wise person feels one. The first arrow is life. The second arrow is your reaction. The first arrow is the pain of loss, rejection, or failure. The second arrow is the self-inflicted suffering, the story, the judgment, the blame. You can't dodge the first arrow, but you can refuse to shoot the second. That's awareness. That's mastery. That's emotional control at the highest level. Buddhism doesn't promise a life without pain. It promises freedom within it. It's not about escaping the storm. It's about learning to stand still in the rain without drowning in your thoughts. That's why the Buddha called craving and aversion the roots of suffering. We crave what we want. We resist what we don't want. And both keep us trapped. When you stop clinging and stop pushing away, pain loses its power to define you. Repeat this until it's burned into your mind. Feel it, don't feed it. That's your mantra. Modern science confirms it. This isn't just spiritual poetry. It's neuroscience. Modern research on mindfulness and pain perception proves what the Buddha said centuries ago. When you resist pain, your brain's amygdala, the threat center, fires more intensely. You literally amplify your suffering through mental resistance. But when you allow the sensation, when you name it, breathe through it, observe it, the brain's prefrontal cortex activates instead. That's the area of awareness, regulation, and rational control. In simple terms, resistance turns pain into trauma. Acceptance turns pain into data. The University of Montreal conducted studies on meditators showing they felt pain, but with far less suffering. Their brains showed activity in sensory regions, but not in emotional ones. They were feeling pain, but not fighting it. That's the difference between a reactive mind and a disciplined one. Pain says, something happened. Suffering says, I can't handle it. And that's the lie that keeps you trapped. It's not about avoiding discomfort. It's about training your nervous system to stay steady inside it. When you stop labeling pain as bad or unfair, it becomes what it always was, a signal. Pain isn't an enemy. It's feedback. It's your body, your mind, your life saying, pay attention here. The psychology of acceptance. Psychologist Tara Brach calls it radical acceptance, the practice of meeting reality exactly as it is, without judgment. She says, pain is inevitable, but suffering is what happens when we refuse to accept the pain. Acceptance doesn't mean liking it. It means acknowledging it, because denial keeps you stuck in the wound. When you say, this shouldn't be happening, you freeze yourself in resistance. But when you say, this is happening, you reclaim your power to respond. That's what Stoicism, Buddhism, and modern psychology all agree on. Acceptance is not weakness. It's command. Every time you resist pain, you hand over your control to emotion. Every time you meet it with awareness, you reclaim your authority. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I learn from this? Pain can break you, or it can build you, depending on your level of awareness. Feel it, don't feed it. Here's your discipline. Feel it. Don't feed it. When something hurts, physically or emotionally, pause. Don't react. Don't suppress. Don't spiral. Just feel. Breathe into the sensation. Name it out loud. This is disappointment. This is loss. This is fear. And then remind yourself, this is the first arrow. Don't add the second. Because when you feed pain with thoughts like this always happens to me, or I'll never recover, you're not healing, you're rehearsing suffering. Stop rehearsing suffering. Start practicing awareness. The mind that observes pain is not the mind that's in pain. The moment you can witness it, you're already larger than it. Pain shrinks when you face it directly. It multiplies when you run from it. It's not about feeling less. It's about feeling cleanly. Without resistance. Without story. That's emotional discipline. That's how monks, soldiers, and survivors endure what others can't. Real-world application. Let's make this real. You lose someone you love, you'll feel pain. Deep, raw, physical pain. That's natural. That's human. But the suffering, the endless if-onlys, the it's not fair, the refusal to move forward, that's optional. You face rejection, that's pain. But turning it into proof that you're unworthy, that's suffering. You get injured, that's pain. You start seeing yourself as broken, that's suffering. Every time life hurts, you stand at a fork in the road. One path says, why me? The other says, what now? The first path feeds pain. The second transforms it. You can't control when pain enters your life, but you can always control what story you attach to it. That's your freedom. That's the space between pain and suffering. And Viktor Frankl, survivor of Auschwitz, captured it best in Man's Search for Meaning. Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space is your salvation. That's where awareness lives. That's where suffering ends. The discipline of acceptance. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's leveling up. When you stop feeding pain with resistance, you open space for wisdom to grow. Every challenge becomes instruction. Every scar becomes scripture. You stop being defined by what happened and start being refined by how you respond. Pain will visit. Let it. Don't slam the door. Don't drown it in distraction. Meet it, breathe it, learn from it. Then let it pass. Because here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to get rid of pain, it starts to move through you. The moment you stop running, it stops chasing you. Feel it, don't feed it. That's the mantra. That's the medicine. So when pain comes, and it will, remember, you can't always control the first arrow. But the second, that one's yours. That's where discipline lives. That's where power hides. Feel it. Don't feed it. That's how you end suffering before it begins. You've learned how to face pain. Now, it's time to learn how to see beauty, even when life doesn't go your way. Because acceptance isn't just about enduring. It's about awakening. Chapter 6. Acceptance is not apathy. You've been lied to about acceptance. Somewhere along the way, the modern world turned acceptance into a synonym for laziness, passivity, and weakness. People now use it as an excuse to stop trying. They say, "I'm just accepting things as they are," while secretly retreating from responsibility. But that's not acceptance. That's apathy dressed up in spiritual clothing. Real acceptance is not surrendering your will. It's aligning your will with truth. It's seeing reality as it is, not as you wish it were, and moving forward from there. It's not about giving up. It's about getting clear. Because here's the hard truth. You can't act effectively on a lie. And until you accept reality, you're living in one. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor who ruled Rome at its height, understood this better than anyone. He wrote in Meditations, "Love only that which happens, which is destined. No greater harmony." That wasn't apathy. That was command. That was composure forged from clarity. Marcus didn't sit in a cave and meditate on acceptance. He accepted the chaos of life, plagues, wars, betrayal, and ruled anyway. He faced his fate without complaint because he understood. Acceptance is the first step to mastery. Before you can master anything, your emotions, your work, your destiny, you must first accept what is. You can't change the weather until you recognize the storm. You can't lead people until you understand their nature. You can't improve your life until you stop denying where you are. It's not about resignation. It's about responsibility. Let's look at Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. He's a warrior standing on the battlefield, overwhelmed by doubt. His mind says, "I can't do this. I don't want this fight." He's frozen, caught between emotion and duty. Then Krishna speaks truth to him. You have a right to your actions, but never to your fruits. In that moment, Arjuna learns the essence of acceptance. It's not running from life's battles. It's facing them without clinging to outcomes. Krishna didn't tell him to withdraw. He told him to act, but to act with clarity, without the fog of attachment. That's the discipline of true acceptance. You don't stop fighting, you stop fighting reality. When you confuse acceptance with apathy, you drain your power. Because apathy says, nothing matters. Acceptance says, everything matters, but not everything is mine to control. You see the difference? Apathy is disengagement. Acceptance is full engagement without illusion. Apathy is fear disguised as indifference. Acceptance is courage disguised as calm. It's not about weakness. It's about wisdom. Modern psychology backs this up. Dr. Marsha Linehan, who created dialectical behavior therapy, said, "Radical acceptance rests on letting go of the illusion of control and accepting things as they are." The word radical here is key. It's not partial, not conditional. Radical acceptance means you drop the argument with life completely. Because life doesn't negotiate. It doesn't bend to your emotions. It moves as it moves. The question is not, can you control it? The question is, can you stay steady within it? Think of acceptance like the stillness of a warrior before battle. Calm, centered, aware. You see everything as it is. You don't waste energy on denial or self-pity. You don't get emotional over the terrain. You adapt to it. Acceptance creates clarity. Clarity creates precision. Precision creates power. The world's greatest performers understand this. Athletes, soldiers, entrepreneurs, they all talk about staying in the moment. What they are really describing is acceptance. Total immersion in the reality of now. No resistance. No wishful thinking. Just flow. As Bruce Lee said, be water, my friend. Water accepts everything it meets, the rock, the wall, the fall, and still moves forward. So, how do you train this in yourself? Here's a simple, brutal exercise. Step 1. Write down what you're currently resisting. Maybe it's your job, a breakup, your health, your past. Be honest. Step 2. For each one, write the truth, not the story, not the excuse, just the truth. I lost that relationship because I wasn't ready. I'm stuck because I keep procrastinating. I'm tired because I don't sleep enough. No judgment. Just facts. Step 3. Accept those facts fully. Feel them. Own them. And then, and only then, decide what action to take next. Acceptance doesn't stop at awareness. It fuels action. Because once you stop fighting reality, you finally have energy left to change it. Here's the paradox. The moment you accept something completely, you gain the power to transform it. That's why the Stoics said, amor fati, love your fate. Not tolerate it. Love it. Embrace it as raw material for your evolution. Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, put it perfectly. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. He didn't say give up. He said transform. That's what acceptance is. Self-transformation through reality. But beware of the counterfeit version of acceptance, the one society sells you. The kind that says, just let it be while you scroll your life away, detached from meaning. That's not spirituality. That's sedation. True acceptance is active. It's alert. It's engaged. It doesn't make you a bystander. It makes you a strategist. The monk accepts impermanence and still sweeps the temple every morning. The Stoic accepts death and still writes, builds, and serves. The leader accepts difficulty and still takes responsibility. Why? Because they understand that acceptance is not the end of effort. It's the beginning of intelligent effort. It's not about apathy. It's about alignment. So ask yourself right now, what am I refusing to accept? What truth am I avoiding because it hurts my ego? Face that, and you'll find power you didn't know you had. Stop saying, it shouldn't be this way. Start saying, it is this way, now what? That one shift turns chaos into clarity. It transforms pain into purpose. Acceptance doesn't make life easy. It makes you effective. It makes you untouchable. Because no matter what happens, you're not arguing with reality. You're adapting to it. You're not reacting. You're responding. You're not waiting. You're moving. Remember this. It's not about avoidance. It's about awareness. It's not about passivity. It's about precision. It's not about giving up. It's about showing up. Acceptance is not the end of action. It's the source of wise action. When you can accept everything, you fear nothing. When you fear nothing, you can act freely. And that's the true strength of the disciplined mind. You've learned to see acceptance as power, not passivity. You've learned to stop fighting what is and start working from what is. That's maturity. That's mastery. But once you can accept reality, there's a deeper test ahead, what you do with it. Because clarity without direction is chaos. Now that you've faced truth, it's time to channel it. Chapter 7. Trust the process of life. You think you're in control. You think you can force life into submission, push harder, plan tighter, demand faster results. But here's the truth most people never want to hear. You are not in charge of timing. You can control your effort. You can control your attitude. But you cannot control the flow of life itself. And when you fight that flow, when you try to outsmart the timing of the universe, you suffer. Because life has its own intelligence. Life has its own pace. And when you stop fighting it, when you finally trust the process, you realize something powerful. Life knows what it's doing. Taoism calls this principle wu wei, effortless action. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what's necessary without resistance. It's the art of alignment over aggression. The Tao Te Ching says, when nothing is done, nothing is left undone. It sounds paradoxical, but it's the purest form of power. It means when you act in harmony with life's rhythm, Instead of forcing your own, everything flows. You stop pushing the river, and you start moving with it. This is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's not about being passive. It's about being precise. Because forcing life is like pulling on a seed to make it grow faster. All you do is kill it. Let's be blunt. Most people destroy their own progress because they cannot stand uncertainty. They mistake impatience for ambition. They confuse control with strength. But trust isn't weakness. It's confidence in motion. It's knowing that while you may not see the path, you're still on it. As Lao Tzu said, nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Look at nature. The seasons don't rush. The trees don't panic. The river doesn't worry about its destination. Yet everything unfolds in perfect time. That's not luck. That's law. Universal law. The same intelligence that turns a seed into a forest, or an embryo into a child, governs your life. You don't need to micromanage it. You need to align with it. Now, this is where the ego panics. The ego hates trust. It thrives on control, on forcing outcomes, on manipulating time. It whispers, if you don't control everything, you'll lose everything. But here's the irony. The tighter you cling, the faster things slip through your fingers. Because control without surrender is chaos. You cannot hold water in a fist. And when you let go, when you stop fighting the current, you discover that life starts working for you, not against you. That's what the Tao calls harmony, a state where your effort and existence merge into one direction. This principle shows up everywhere. In faith, in philosophy, in science, in Christianity, the foundation of faith is exactly this: trust in divine order. The book of Hebrews says, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's not blind belief. That's disciplined surrender. That's the awareness that there is a higher intelligence at play, and your role is obedience to it. Jesus didn't say, force it until it happens. He said, thy will be done. That's ultimate trust. That's letting life lead. Faith and Wu Wei are not opposites. They are the same principle in different languages. Stop interfering with what you don't fully understand. Now, let's bring it back to your life, because this isn't abstract philosophy. This is practical power. Think about your goals. Maybe you're building a business. Maybe you're healing from a loss. Maybe you're trying to rebuild yourself from the inside out. You want results now. You want success now. You want clarity now. But growth doesn't work on your clock. It works on truth's clock. A wound doesn't heal faster because you stare at it. A plant doesn't bloom because you yell at it. You cannot accelerate authenticity. It's not about rushing. It's about readiness. When you force progress, you create pressure. When you trust the process, you create power. Let's make this practical. Here's a mental exercise to train your trust. Take one area of your life where you feel frustration, where you're pushing too hard. Write it down. Now ask yourself, what if I trusted this process completely? What if life actually knows what it's doing? Feel how that question shifts your energy. It doesn't make you lazy. It makes you calm. It frees your mind from obsession and redirects it to alignment. Because trust doesn't mean you stop working. It means you stop worrying. You still take action. You still show up. You still push forward. But your effort comes from confidence, not desperation. That's the secret of Wu Wei. Action without anxiety. Modern science proves this. Neuroscientists studying flow state, the psychological zone of peak performance, discovered that it happens when you release the conscious need to control every detail. You focus. You trust your preparation. You move with the moment. That's when creativity and performance skyrocket. Flow is science's version of Wu Wei. It's effortless excellence born from deep trust in your own process and life's. So when the mind screams, what if it doesn't work? You answer, it's working already. I just can't see it yet. Because everything that's growing happens underground first. The seed breaks before the sprout appears. The dawn begins long before you see light. And you're in that process too. The discipline of trust is not about sitting back and hoping. It's about knowing that if you're aligned, consistent, and honest in your effort, the rest will unfold as it should. It's not about forcing control. It's about flowing with conviction. That's how the best in the world operate. Great leaders, creators, athletes. They don't panic under pressure. They trust their training. They trust time. They trust cause and effect. They understand that patience is not passivity, it's mastery of momentum. So remember this. When you're rushing, you're resisting. When you're forcing, you're doubting. When you're trusting, you're growing. It's not about control. It's about confidence. When you learn to trust the process, life becomes lighter. You stop living like everything's an emergency. You start breathing again. And when you breathe, you see. You notice how everything has been moving perfectly all along, not according to your will, but according to wisdom far greater than yours. That's when peace arrives. That's when growth feels natural again. Because here's the final truth. Life knows what it's doing. It's not late. It's not wrong. It's not random. It's refining you. It's training you. It's preparing you for what's next. The process isn't punishing you. It's positioning you. Your only job is to stay aligned, stay steady, and stay trusting. When you stop interfering, life accelerates. When you stop demanding, life delivers. Trust doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. You've learned the discipline of trust, how to stop forcing and start flowing. You've learned to recognize that life's timing is wiser than your impatience. That's growth. That's power. That's peace. But now comes the next level. What happens when silence itself becomes your greatest weapon? You've trusted the flow. Now it's time to master the stillness. Chapter 8. The Ego versus the Flow. You're not fighting life. You're fighting yourself. Every time you feel frustrated, anxious, or stuck, it's not because life has turned against you. It's because your ego has taken the driver's seat. The ego is that voice in your head that says, I know better. I deserve better. It should have happened by now. It demands control. It resists correction. It cannot stand surrender. But here's the brutal truth. The ego is your biggest obstacle to flow. And flow, that effortless alignment with life, only begins when ego ends. Every major faith, every great philosophy, every spiritual teaching warns about the same enemy, the self that thinks it's the center of the universe. In Buddhism, it's called anatta, no self. The Buddha taught that the idea of a permanent I is an illusion. The more you cling to it, the more you suffer. He said, all suffering begins with attachment. Attachment to what? To the ego's story, its identity, its pride, its expectations. In Christianity, the message echoes through Christ's words. Whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. That's not about physical death. It's about ego death. It's about letting go of the false self that tries to control everything, so that something higher can live through you. In Islam, the very act of faith is surrender. Islam itself means submission, not humiliation, but liberation. When a believer says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi raji'un, from God we come, and to God we return, it's not weakness. It's humility. It's the recognition that you are not the author of everything. You are part of a greater design. The lesson repeats across cultures. Ego separates you from life. Humility reconnects you to it. Now, let's bring this into the modern world, where ego hides behind productivity, comparison, and noise. You check your phone, and ego whispers, you're behind. You see someone's success, and ego hisses, you should be there already. You fail, and ego screams, you're not enough. Ego lives in constant tension. It feeds on control, but control is an illusion. It's not about ambition, it's about attachment. It's not about failure, it's about identity. The ego doesn't want progress, it wants proof. Proof that it matters. Proof that it's superior. Proof that it's right. But the more you feed the ego, the more disconnected you become. From people, from peace, from the flow of life itself. Because ego cannot flow. Ego can only force. Let's talk about flow, the state of total immersion, total presence, total alignment. In modern psychology, flow is described as the mental zone where your skills perfectly meet your challenge. You lose track of time. You lose your sense of me. You're not performing the action. You are the action. Artists know this. Athletes know this. Musicians know this. They describe moments where they disappear, where something larger takes over. That's not imagination. That's the collapse of ego. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the psychologist who coined the term flow, found something profound. The best human performance happens when the sense of self disappears. You stop thinking about yourself. You stop monitoring, judging, comparing. You stop narrating every moment in your head. You just do. Paradoxically, when the ego steps out, mastery steps in. It's not about control. It's about connection. Ego says, I must control the outcome. Flow says, I trust the process. Ego says, I need to win. Flow says, I am the work itself. Ego fights reality. Flow moves with reality. This is the paradox of power. The less you try to control, the more control you gain. The more you resist, the weaker you become. Because the ego drains energy. It traps you in reaction, emotion, and defense. But flow releases energy. It merges thought and action. You're no longer acting for something. You're acting from something deeper. Think about water, one of Taoism's favorite metaphors. Water never insists. It adapts. It bends. It flows around obstacles but always reaches its destination. Lao Tzu wrote, the softest thing in the world overcomes the hardest. That's not poetry. That's strategy. Ego resists. Water adapts. Ego fights. Water wins. You want to flow. Drop the I. Drop the should. Drop the mine. And suddenly, the universe doesn't feel hostile anymore. It feels cooperative. Because it always was. It was your resistance that created friction. But let's be clear. Killing the ego doesn't mean losing identity or drive. It means using identity as a tool, not a prison. When the ego serves your purpose, it's powerful. But when your purpose serves your ego, it's poison. You don't have to erase who you are. You have to stop worshipping who you are. That's what humility really is. Not self-deprecation, but self-correction. As C.S. Lewis said, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. That's how you re-enter flow. By turning the spotlight away from me and back to the moment. Here's a simple practice. When you feel frustrated, ask yourself, who's frustrated, me or my ego? Because life rarely hurts you. It hurts your image of yourself. It offends your story, your expectations, your sense of control. But when you drop the story, the pain dissolves. It's not about defending your identity. It's about aligning with reality. You don't need to prove yourself when you're in flow. You are yourself, without effort, without fear, without noise. That's why the greatest masters, saints, and leaders radiate calm. They are not empty, they are clear. They've removed the fog of ego, and what's left is pure presence. Look at Jesus before the cross. No resistance, no panic. Just clarity. Not my will, but thy will. That's the death of ego, the birth of surrender. Look at the Buddha under the Bodhi tree. Temptation, illusion, fear, all confronted and released. He didn't fight them. He watched them fade. Look at Muhammad, peace be upon him. When facing exile and battle, he didn't curse destiny. He said, Allah is sufficient for us. Trust, alignment, flow. Each of them mastered what most people avoid, the silence beyond the self. Here's the hard truth. You can't be in flow and in ego at the same time. You can't demand control and claim peace. You can't chase validation and feel purpose. It's one or the other. And if you keep choosing ego, life will keep breaking you, not to punish you, but to wake you. Because life's goal is not to make you comfortable, it's to make you conscious. So what's the discipline here? It's the discipline of detachment. It's the daily practice of removing me from the middle of everything. Stop saying, why is this happening to me? Start asking, what is life trying to teach me through this? It's not about resistance. It's about release. It's not about control. It's about connection. It's not about ego. It's about evolution. When you surrender the I, you gain access to something far greater, the intelligence of flow itself. And that's where true power begins. Not in domination, but in direction. Not in pride, but in presence. The less you insist, the more life assists. Because when you stop fighting for your little self, the greater self, call it soul, consciousness, or divine intelligence, finally takes the wheel. You've learned to drop the ego and enter the current. You've seen how every tradition, ancient and modern, points to this one truth. But flow isn't just an inner state. It shapes how you respond to everything, to people, to pressure, to pain. Chapter 9. Gratitude for what is. Here's a question few people ever ask themselves. Are you grateful for your life right now, exactly as it is? Not for what it could be. Not for what it should be. Not for what you think you deserve. Right now. At this moment. Most of us aren't. Most of us are trained to focus on the gap, the missing, the lacking, the not enough. We obsess over what we don't have. We compare ourselves to others. We chase validation, possessions, achievements, approval, as if filling these external voids will finally make life worth living. Here's the brutal truth. It won't. Because peace, clarity, and strength don't come from accumulation. They come from alignment. They come from seeing what is and saying, "This is enough." That's the discipline of gratitude. And make no mistake, it's not a soft, feel-good exercise. It's a hard, conscious act of radical acceptance. Across the world's faiths, gratitude is more than a nice idea. It is the cornerstone of spiritual power. In Christianity, the Psalms overflow with praise for life's simplest gifts. Psalm 136 repeats, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, his love endures forever." It's repetitive, almost hypnotic. And that's intentional. Repetition trains the mind to notice blessing, even in suffering, even in scarcity. In Islam, gratitude is a daily practice. The Quran commands, "If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor." Gratitude is not optional. It is a tool for transformation. It turns the ordinary into the sacred. Hinduism echoes this in the Vedas, teaching that contentment, santosha, is the foundation of all happiness. Gratitude, the recognition of what already exists, is not passive. It is active alignment. It rewires the mind to see the perfection embedded in imperfection. The Stoics were equally clear. Seneca wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart." Epictetus instructed his students to list, every day, what they had instead of what they lacked. Gratitude, in Stoic practice, is a daily discipline, the antidote to envy, fear, and impatience. Here's why gratitude works. Neuroscience confirms what sages have said for millennia. Gratitude rewires the brain. It activates the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making and attention. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and increases dopamine, the pleasure and motivation chemical. Put simply, grateful people are calmer, clearer, stronger. And the best part, you can start practicing this immediately. No external conditions required. This is the power of alignment. You're not waiting for life to give you reason to be happy. You are declaring, life as it is worthy. Let's get practical. Step 1. Notice what exists. Not what you want, not what's missing, not what's wrong. What's right in front of you? A breath, a chair, a person, food, shelter, health, awareness itself. Step 2. Name it. Don't think, "I guess this is okay." Say it. This is enough. This matters. This is life, and I acknowledge it fully. Step 3. Repeat it. This is crucial. Your mind has been trained for scarcity. It will resist. Repeat your gratitude daily. Repetition is how habits form, and habits are how lives change. Nothing is missing right now. Say it. Say it while stuck in traffic. Say it while stuck in your own head. Say it while facing disappointment. Nothing is missing right now. The phrase is simple. The effect is profound. Real-world application separates theory from transformation. Consider Viktor Frankl, the psychologist who survived Auschwitz. In the most unimaginable suffering, he noticed one truth. Those who found reasons for gratitude, the warmth of a memory, the presence of another person, the chance to endure, survived. Gratitude gave them mental freedom when the world had stripped away everything else. Or look at modern high performers, athletes, CEOs, artists. They journal. They list daily wins. They explicitly acknowledge what is working. They don't wait for perfection. They recognize reality and celebrate it. Because here's the secret. You cannot fully control life, but you can fully control recognition. You cannot demand perfection, but you can acknowledge what exists. And when you do, the world feels lighter. Energy flows. Clarity sharpens. Resistance melts. Gratitude is also a feedback loop. The more you practice it, the more you notice blessings. The more you notice blessings, the more you feel aligned. The more you feel aligned, the less ego-driven anxiety or fear consumes you. It's not a linear effect, it's exponential. Every repetition compounds. Every acknowledgement strengthens the neural pathway of peace. It's not about ignoring challenges. It's about framing them differently. Gratitude doesn't erase hardship. It rewires your relationship to hardship. You still act. You still struggle. But struggle becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. Here's a powerful mental exercise to embed this principle deeply. Step 1. Take 5 minutes right now. Step 2. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Step 3. Name 5 things in your life exactly as they are for which you are grateful. No judgment. No comparison. No shoulds. Just what exists. Step 4. Repeat, internally. Nothing is missing right now. Do this consistently, morning, evening, and when anxiety strikes. Your brain will learn. Alignment is a choice. Presence is a choice. Gratitude is discipline, not luck. It's not about ignoring ambition. It's about grounding it. It's not about accepting mediocrity. It's about recognizing reality so you can act with clarity. It's not about becoming passive. It's about becoming precise. Gratitude is mental armor. Gratitude is a compass. Gratitude is power. And here's the kicker. Life responds. The more you acknowledge the perfection in the imperfect, the more opportunities, clarity, and abundance appear. The mind trained in gratitude sees possibilities where the ego-trained mind sees only obstacles. Because life is not flawed. Life is just life. And when your mind sees that clearly, everything changes. Repetition is critical here. Keep the mantra close. Nothing is missing right now. Say it when you're restless. Say it when you're anxious. Say it when you feel inadequate. Repeat it until your nervous system believes it. Because the mind believes what it rehearses. The body lives what the mind believes. The life you experience reflects the alignment you practice. Gratitude is not passive. Gratitude is active acceptance. It transforms the ordinary into sacred. It transforms noise into music. It transforms struggle into opportunity. It's the final piece of alignment. You've accepted reality. You've surrendered ego. You've trusted the process. Now you celebrate what is. Because when you can say, nothing is missing right now, you no longer chase. You no longer cling. You act from clarity, presence, and peace. And that is freedom. That is power. That is life as it is, fully embraced. You've learned the discipline of gratitude, seeing perfection in imperfection, finding abundance in the ordinary, claiming peace in the present. And now, the final step is integration, bringing all this alignment, surrender, ego dissolution, and gratitude into action, into every interaction, into every moment of your life. Chapter 10. Live the prayer. Let it be. Here's the truth few people are willing to face. Most of your suffering comes not from what happens, but from what you wish would happen instead. You fight reality. You argue with time. You resist circumstances. You beg life to bend to your will. And when it doesn't, you panic. You stew. You suffer. But here's the radical insight at the core of every great spiritual teaching. The highest prayer is not, change this for me, but let this be, for my good. Acceptance is not passive. Acceptance is action. It is faith in motion. It is the courage to say, I don't control the universe. I control my response. I align with what is. And when you live that prayer, your life changes, not because the world changes, but because you do. Let's start with Christianity. Paul the Apostle wrote, Rejoice in the Lord always. Again I will say, rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The Lord is at hand. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. Notice the pattern. Don't demand. Don't fight. Don't resist. Pray. Surrender. Trust. And let your requests be made known, but leave the outcome to divine wisdom. This is living the prayer, not manipulating life, but harmonizing with it. Not controlling the world, but trusting the process. Not seeking certainty, but embracing the unknown. It's not about being weak. It's about being wise. It's not about giving up. It's about giving over. In Islam, surrender echoes this principle. The phrase Bismillah wa tawakkaltu ala Allah, in the name of God, I trust in God, is a statement of action and trust. You act, you strive, you give your best, and then you leave the outcome to what is higher than yourself. The power is in the combination. Disciplined effort plus radical acceptance. One without the other is either chaos or passivity. Together, they create serenity. Together, they create flow. Together, they create peace. Consider the wisdom of Rumi, the 13th century poet and Sufi mystic. Try to accept the changing seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons changing over your fields. Rumi is blunt in his simplicity. Life is in flux. You cannot stop it. You cannot command it. You can only align with it. And when you do, you discover beauty, rhythm, and meaning where others see only struggle. Buddha, too, makes this point in the Dhammapada. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is not despair. It is empowerment. It is the recognition that clinging to what cannot remain is the cause of suffering. Let go. Accept. Flow. Live the prayer silently in every heartbeat. Even Lao Tzu reminds us of the same truth in the Tao Te Ching. By letting it be, everything is accomplished. Notice the repetition across time, space, and culture. The way to peace is not through forcing life to conform to your expectations. The way to peace is through alignment, trust, and release. It's the same truth spoken in different tongues. Acceptance is the universal prayer. Faith is the universal action. So how do you live it? Step 1. Acknowledge reality as it is. Stop saying, "This shouldn't be happening." Stop blaming life or people. See the situation clearly. Name it. Own it. Step 2. Act in alignment. The prayer is not about passivity. You still move. You still do what you can. You still honor your responsibility. But your energy is no longer wasted on resistance. You act from clarity, not panic. Step 3. Release attachment to outcome. This is the hardest step. You cannot control results. You cannot guarantee success. You can only ensure your response is disciplined, present, and aligned. Step 4. Affirm trust and surrender. Speak it, write it, or think it. This is life. I accept it fully. I live it freely. Repetition embeds it in your nervous system. It becomes a new default. It becomes a posture of power. Let's put this in context. Imagine a challenge, a career setback, a personal betrayal, a failed project. Ego screams, "This is unfair. I should have done better. This is wrong." Faith whispers, "Let this be. Let this teach me. Let this refine me. Let this be for my good." Which voice do you answer? The one screaming in panic, or the one grounded in acceptance? Living the prayer is choosing the latter. It doesn't make the challenge vanish. It transforms your relationship to it. Suddenly, pain becomes instruction. Resistance becomes clarity. Chaos becomes order. Here's a practical, daily exercise to embed this. Every morning, pick one sentence to be your mantra. This is life. I accept it fully. I live it freely. Repeat it while brushing your teeth. Repeat it during your commute. Repeat it in moments of stress, in conversations, in decision-making. The repetition is not empty. It retrains your mind. It replaces instinctive resistance with disciplined acceptance. It rewires your nervous system to function from serenity instead of panic. This is living the prayer. This is the action of faith. Real-world examples prove this works. Consider Nelson Mandela during his imprisonment. He could have raged, resisted, and allowed bitterness to consume him. Instead, he said, "I am not a saint, unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying." He acted with integrity, patience, and acceptance. He did not control the system, but he controlled his response. He lived the prayer daily and emerged transformed, not broken. Or consider Viktor Frankl in the concentration camps. He noted that while he could not control the horrors around him, he could control his attitude. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Living the prayer is choosing that attitude, again and again, even in the face of suffering. It's not abstract philosophy. It's behavior. It's discipline. It's hard work. Every moment of surrender is a muscle you build. Every refusal to resist is a rep in the gym of the mind. Every acceptance is a brick in the foundation of peace. You cannot skip it. You cannot outsource it. You cannot wish it into being. You must practice it daily. And here's the final integration. The journey you've been on through this audiobook: radical acceptance, surrender, letting go, controlling what you can, releasing what you cannot, embracing flow, gratitude, all of it converges here. Living the prayer is the culmination. You are not just accepting life intellectually. You are embodying acceptance. You are taking action in alignment. You are surrendering ego, trusting process, and practicing gratitude, all in one integrated way. So end this audiobook with your voice, your breath, your intention. This is life. I accept it fully. I live it freely. Say it slowly. Say it powerfully. Feel each word resonate through your body. Feel your mind stop arguing. Feel your heart stop resisting. Because that simple sentence carries all the wisdom of centuries, all the teachings of saints, sages, and philosophers, all the insight of modern psychology. It is the discipline. It is the freedom. It is the power. And it is yours, the moment you decide to live it. You have learned to stop resisting, to surrender, to let go, to control wisely, to endure pain without suffering, to act from acceptance, to trust the process, to dissolve the ego, to embrace gratitude, and finally, to live the prayer. Acceptance is not defeat. It's alignment. The storm still comes, but you stop breaking yourself against it. The world doesn't need to change for you to be free. You need to stop fighting what already is. Every faith, every philosophy, every saint, sage, and thinker has been telling us the same truth. Peace doesn't begin when life gets easier. It begins when you stop demanding that it should. So from this moment forward, practice this. When life is heavy, say let it be. When plans collapse, whisper this too is part of it. When the unknown arrives, breathe and trust. Life knows what it's doing. Stop resisting. Start accepting. That's where freedom begins.